Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? You're going to get a couple of intros here today, two for the price of one. That's called a bargain. This is what we're going to be drawing here today. This is an image-style 90s-esque torso. So this is the first one of these. I wasn't really sure how to kick things off. So this may be a bit more of an advanced video for some people. I'm kind of working with the assumption that a lot of people are in the same position I was in like a year and a half ago, where you drew when you were younger. Maybe you've been drawing all the way since, or you're getting back into it, or whatever. And you were a fan of Image Comics when you were younger. And that kind of informed your love of drawing. So we're just going to go over a few things that I often do when I'm doing an extreme type torso. If you want me to do something a bit more introductory, where we're going over anatomy or shading, or something along those lines. If anything seems unclear, let me know in the comments. I think I will be doing more of these videos, and we'll kind of adjust as we go. So let's just get into it here. Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're going to try something a little different here. This was suggested by one or two of the guys in the stream, was to maybe do I'm hesitant to call it like an art tips kind of video, because I'm not a professional or anything. I've never actually sold anything, to be so. It's not necessarily the kind of guy you want to be taking advice from. But if there's one thing I am kind of an expert in, it's 90s comics. So I thought, you know what, I can at least tell you how I go about drawing in an image fashion, which is kind of a mashup of Jim Lee, a little bit of Silvestri, a little bit of Liefeld, and then my own thing, obviously, as well. All right, so might as well start with torsos on this one. So, this is the thing. For me personally, I have difficulty with remembering things like formulas. I've watched a million tutorials on, how to do a formula for a face, how to do a formula for a body, or how to all this kind of shit. And none of it ever sticks, so I'm just always kind of stuck coming up with my own stuff, really. But this seems to be a pretty classic shape here for a torso, okay? So basically that Ken doll torso. And then you get or G.I. Joe, if you like. So we all know our basic torso shapes. Got your pecs. Got your rib cage. Got your abdominals. I also lay stuff out very strangely in that I don't use necessarily shapes exactly anymore. Now I use like these gestural lines, where I just kind of go for the rough shape of what I'm going for. And it's not something I intended to do, really. It's just, it just kind of started kind of recently. Anyway. So this is theoretically our torso shape. It's basically a very buff dude, right? I mean, we all know what a regular dude would look like, where, like regular shoulders, even like a pretty fit guy. You get the deltoid up here, get the arms here. Probably be around there. And then maybe like a line on the stomach kind of thing, right? And just basic pectoral muscles. Maybe he even has like some traps a little bit, right? So obviously what I try to do is I try to max all that shit out. Basically, just inflate everything. Pecs are a focal point, obviously. Get really defined on the abs. A squarer shape works well for me, although, I mean, you can go for like rounder, you can go for triangular if you want. Or like more of a, even like a trapezoidal kind of, like there's all sorts of kind of shit you can come up with. Okay, then we got the obliques. Okay, and we'll just do some basic arm stuff on the side here. And shoulders, of course, massive. Halfway down the arm if you like, why not?
I find best references for shoulders to be Wills Portacio or Dale Keown, personally. All right, arch the back. Make this like the one part you want to do skinnier. Everything else, balloon. All right, so from here, I think we can get like a basic outline shape. Always good to get the hips in there, which are just kind of a, again, if you remember your G.I. Joe figure, this is where the hip rotates. Okay, so if this is the basic outline for a superhero, say, what do we do to amp this up? Well, for one thing, we want to define the muscles as much as possible. When you get to the point where they look like, you know, interlocking Lego bricks, then you're really getting somewhere. I just kind of recently stole this look for the rib cage from Tim Vigil of Faust. I kind of like how it's going so far. I've always been a little unsure of how to do that particular thing. Because, like, you know, the standard thing for the rib cage over the abdominals. It's just kind of this secondary set of pecs, almost. And it's like, well, no, that's not really what they look like. They kind of do, really. But, no, I like the... I've never liked how this looked. So the idea of adding more muscles here, which are kind of there, that works for me. Okay, so if these are the shapes we're going to work with, what can we do from here? Because this is a decent foundation, but obviously we need to keep amping up. Striation is always a good thing, so just folds in the muscle, just following the contours of those muscles. Also, just, you know, lines following the contours of those muscles. Always a good idea. And then after that, shadow is the best way to make the stuff stand out. And like really stark shadow, I would say. So where's our main points of shadow? One is obviously the pecs. It's the first thing light's going to hit. Somewhere around there. Or so you can do it like that, or you can do the rounded inward thing, which I like to do personally. Doesn't make a ton of sense necessarily, but it ends up looking good, and that's really all we want to do. And remember, shading every muscle separately. Doesn't necessarily matter how they hook up all together. So this is, say, like a whole, the deltoid makes up a whole bunch of little muscles. So if you shade each one separately, I'm going to do it in inks in a second, which will clean everything up. This is really more of a guideline for me. I do not do very in-depth pencils. So like even this much is a bit strange for me. So. Okay, all this stuff, separate shading. And a little bit of shelf overhanging the abs and the obliques. And the abs themselves each get their own shadow. Okay, so again, that's a good start. Now, this can all be in shadow as well. And of course, nobody needs to see his junk. Okay, so shadow is one thing, but it's really just the start for making this extra. You know, we should do these forearms as well. These are not specific forearm muscles or tendons or whatever that I'm using. This is a muscle, and then there's a whole bunch of shit going on in here. I don't know what it is. I just do alternating teardrop formations. This is actually a tough spot, and I know there's this shape here. And that's kind of really it. But, I mean, you are allowed, of course, to make shit up in here if you want, if that works better for you. Now, one arm quite a bit bigger than the other, don't we? See if we can match that up a bit better. It looks a little bit better. Okay, so from here, underlighting. If you really want to go plat on it, which you do, we're going to want some underlighting. You know what? This is a bit too thick. Like I said, this is all stuff I usually do in just kind of making it up as I go. But going along, so if the, you know, basically the opposite of where the shadow's coming from. Just around the frame, really. The interior here, we don't need to underlight necessarily. This stuff here, it should probably be a little darker so that we can underlight it more effectively. Like just for that purpose. And yeah, not enough shadow on here, so this needs more. Again, I'm always trying to add more shadow. If you don't add enough shadow, it tends to look kind of gray. Okay, so if we were to ink this, what we would want is a thick line on the outline here. Really, the thicker the better. But more so on like underneath the shapes. This pen's running out of ink a little bit. See, so go thinner at the top near where the light source is. Now, I'm by no means an inking expert. I mostly go by feel. So that's a decent enough start. So from here, get some of our major pieces here. And just as much tapering as you can do. Again, it's not something I'm great at, but it's something I'm always kind of trying to work towards at least. Okay, again, I think we need a bit more shadow here, but we can create that with hatching, because hatching is, you know, that's after we got a shit ton of solid black down, the next best thing is hatching. I think we probably want a little bit of something in here, because this is, see, I say I want a shit ton of black, and then I'm like, but there's going to be too much black here. So why not add extra ribs? They're kind of there. Not anywhere near that kind of prominent usually, but why not, right? Another good thing to add, wherever there's overlapping muscles, folds. Just again, always just adding that buff feeling. So theoretically, the light is hitting him like right. This is where the curve starts to go under again. I don't know how true that is, but you know, why not? Want to make sure we leave some white all the way around. I know we're looking a little bit like a Skeletor face here, but it'll even out. Okay, let's... Again, if we can make these not quite squares, that might work better. Okay, and what else do we have? A couple of oblique muscles here. it's best to not have black touching black. So like if this, so you want to just, you know, a little bit of a white highlight on everything. That might end up melding like that. Of course, you know, there are examples where you do have just a mass of black and it works perfectly. So it's like, oh, well, what's the difference? I don't know. Again, feel, I guess. I gotta let that turn out a little bit. Okay, now let's color in some of our blacks here. Hands are their own other video. Again, I'm not sure I'm the guy to give anybody tips on those, but we'll cover them at some point. Assuming I do another one of these, I probably will. At least got to do one for faces. And the funny thing is, at this point, I really don't know how this is going to end up looking. Like if this ends up looking like trash, I'm just going to junk this whole video and try just one with faces because that's what I'm much more comfortable with, actually. Okay. So now we cross-hatch. And this will take up the rest of our day. So obviously we want darker the further away from the light source. And blending into the shadows. I'm going to try and define our shapes a little bit better because this got a little bit skinny, so I didn't really want to use the thick brush there. I do not have a deft enough hand to just go in here with some black. I'm trying to get more folds in here. I like the fold at the bicep here. Again, just cross-hatching away from the blacks here. And trying to blend it as well as we can. Again, just trying to define our shapes a little bit. And a little bit more on the underlighting. Okay, so that's a start. Let's do the rib cage here. The ones that are furthest underneath can get completely cross-hatched. Same with these guys here. In fact, we should probably barely see them because of how deep in shadow they should probably end up being. And again, just cross-hatching towards our light source. Okay, this one here, oh man, a lot of white spaces here, eh? This one here, a little bit bigger, so we'll leave some of it pure white, because why the fuck not? And basically everywhere where it goes directly from black to white, just do some cross hatching so that it's not a jarring transition. And always want to have at least some lines following the contour of the muscle a little bit. Yeah, lost track of where the shadow was starting from, so that would mostly be from here. Okay, and again, away from the light source. All right, those look okay. We do the same thing with the obliques here. Okay, and a little bit of cross to just help it blend in. More so towards the bottom. In fact, that one can get, yeah, almost completely obscured. Same with you guys. Obviously don't need nearly as much because much smaller shapes to shadow. Okay, from here, let's see. I think we should go for abs next. So I'll again crosshatch from the shadow towards the light, trying for a tapering line, mostly getting it, I'd say. This particular method of inking actually tends to look a little bit Kelly Jones-ish, which I have no problem with. Not necessarily a completely image look, I suppose, though. And again, try to blend it a little bit here. And on this one, I am comfortable leaving it completely white to black, as in like they're just getting like this is the edge of the shadow from the overhanging muscle. Maybe just a little bit in the center here, because they're going inward, right? And this muscle, whatever this is called, the overjunk, we're mostly going to crosshatch this out. Yeah, starting to lose it a little bit there. Okay. I think from here we can work on this left arm. Again, just every muscle done separately. And not necessarily taken as a whole. Piecemeal is fine when it comes to image. And this I am kind of, yeah, just doing mostly on feel. But basically trying for a shadowed circle shape. Doesn't have to look realistic at all. Just trying to bear in mind where my light source is, which can change from muscle to muscle if necessary, at least a little bit. Okay, these ones will be interesting. So, having them kind of blend back into the shadow as they go further in, away from the light source. Same here. So this is the part where I get Sylvester about it. Well, in a second here. So this kind of thing. Following the contours of these tendons. And that usually ends up looking all right as far as I can tell. All right. Just define that a little bit better. Like at this point, this shadow doesn't even, is kind of stopping making sense. I'm okay with it. I would like this to blend in a bit more though, so just a little bit there. And of course, we do still need to do this, the underlighting here. Don't need a lot. Just a progression from light to dark. Okay. So, what from here? I guess the pecs would probably be the best way to go. So, we're gonna, again, do a bit of a progression from light to dark. Remembering that the point of this is underlighting. Don't necessarily need a lot. You can go light to dark on both sides too. I don't recommend too much on the bottom. Or I don't know, just in this case maybe. For the pecs themselves, we need a bit more texture because they do tend to get to be just large expanses. So I'm going to go with these striation lines. The shape of a pectoral muscle starts basically at the armpit here and just stretches out and then meets up, like gets bigger and a little bit smaller towards here, but not as much. So that is how that flex goes. And a little bit of regression and shadow there, but not too much. And we can do a little bit here and there just to show that gap. That there's a depression there. Not that I even know this for sure. This is more, I'm pretty, you know, like when I'm drawing this, when I'm doing the inking, I'll be like, I'm pretty sure there should be a bit more of a gap here, right? And then just put that in, because why not? You know, if you're wrong, oh well. Try to remember not to do it for next time, but you know, if you do, well, hey, then you know what? Then that's just your style. As Uncle Will says, style is just the mistakes we make consistently. And got to do this deltoid as well. I'm not even sure what the best way to shade this would be, to be honest. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. All I know is the light source is up here somewhere. And I want to blend in this white area into the shadow. And I know a couple of ways I can do that. I'm not sure what would be most appropriate. So let's go with that. And because it is its own, it is all still one muscle, we'll do lines all the way across as well. Why not? That's a bit Sylvester-ish. If you find yourself making a whole bunch of lines, like more lines than are really necessary, you're really getting somewhere. Okay, so that's an image torso, essentially. You know, we can focus. We can also put in things like the trapezius up here. Just always remember your neck stretchies, which are just random when I do them. I'm no expert on neck stretchies, though. Again, that would be Dale Keown. All right, so yeah, just swollen and massively overshadowed altogether. Lots of hatching, lots of tapered lines. Yeah, you can bend the torso in all sorts of ways, but if you get to be famous, you don't have to. Just look at Rob Liefeld. You can do covers where guys are just standing like this and go, yep, this is my guy. Oh, shit, he should have a design on him. Here, this is a costume. There we go. Now he's not naked. See? There we go. Sure. Why not? Image torso. All right. I'll try like faces and stuff next time because that's, again, stuff I'm more familiar with. Let me know what you thought of this. Let me know more things I can point out because I'm not a good guy to go, like giving tips and stuff generally. I tend to just go and go, did you get it? Yeah? No? Oh, my bad. So yeah, if I obviously miss something that you'd like explained here or just next time, let me know and I'll work on that for the next video. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, yeah, we're going to do the whole thing. Why not? Please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. That'll give you access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also go follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions. That's it. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.